The Vampire King was going to die on Delilah Turner's watch, and she refused to let that happen. She stood in the doorway of the isolation suite, clipboard pressed against her chest, staring at the figure laid out on the hospital bed like a fallen god. His skin was alabaster white, almost luminescent under the harsh fluorescent lights, and his hair fanned across the pillow in waves of pure silver white that seemed to glow with an otherworldly sheen. Even dying, he was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen, all sharp cheekbones and aristocratic features that spoke of centuries of breeding and power. The monitors beside him beeped in irregular patterns, and the IV bags hanging above contained not saline but carefully measured units of synthetic blood that her hospital had only recently been authorized to stock. Delilah took a breath and stepped inside, her scrubs swishing softly as she approached. It had been 3 months since the revelation, when vampires had announced their existence to the world in a carefully orchestrated press conference that had sent every government scrambling and every human questioning everything they thought they knew about reality. The medical community had been thrown into chaos, suddenly having to accommodate an entirely new species with entirely different physiology. Her hospital, St. Mercy's in downtown Seattle, had been one of the first to open a specialized wing for vampire patients. She had volunteered for the overnight shift in that wing. Her colleagues thought she was crazy, but Delilah had always been drawn to the extraordinary, the impossible. Being a plus-size woman in a profession that often valued appearance over skill had taught her to prove herself twice as hard, to be twice as competent. She wasn't afraid of vampires. She was afraid of mediocrity, of letting anyone down on her watch. And this patient, brought in 3 hours ago under armed guard and sealed orders, was definitely not going to die. Not if she had anything to say about it. "Your Majesty," she said softly, approaching the bed. The title felt strange on her tongue, but the briefing had been clear. This was Lucian Wolfhart, King of the Northern Territories, ruler of one of the oldest vampire bloodlines in existence. He had been found collapsed in his estate, poisoned by some substance the vampire doctors couldn't identify. In desperation, his advisors had brought him here, to human medicine, hoping that perhaps human toxicology might succeed where vampire healing had failed. His eyes snapped open at her voice, and Delilah nearly stumbled backward. They were silver, pure liquid silver, and they burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. Even weakened, even dying, the power in that gaze was overwhelming. "You will address me as Lucian," he said, his voice a low rumble with an accent she couldn't place, something European and ancient. "If I am to die in this sterile human place, I will not spend my last hours drowning in formality." "You're not going to die," Delilah said firmly, recovering her composure. She moved to check his vitals, her practiced hands gentle as she adjusted the monitors. "Not on my shift. I'm Delilah Turner, and I'm going to be taking care of you tonight." Delilah. He said her name like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth, a biblical name. The woman who brought down the mighty Samson. How fitting. "I'm not here to bring anyone down," she replied, marking notes on her clipboard. "I'm here to keep you alive. Your blood pressure is dropping. The synthetic blood isn't being absorbed properly. We need to figure out what was used to poison you." Lucian's jaw tightened. Even that small movement was graceful. "Leonin. Nightsbane. An ancient poison derived from a flower that grows only in the deepest vampire territories. It is designed specifically to kill my kind. There is no antidote." "There's always an antidote," Delilah said stubbornly. "Every poison has a counter. We just have to find it." A ghost of a smile crossed his pale lips. "Such confidence, such determination. Are all human nurses so fierce?" "Just the good ones." She met his eyes squarely, refusing to be intimidated. "Now I need you to tell me everything you can about this Nightsbane. Every symptom, every stage of the poisoning. The more I know, the better chance I have of helping you." For a long moment, Lucian simply stared at her, and Delilah had the distinct impression she was being evaluated, measured against some standard she couldn't comprehend. Finally, he nodded slowly. "It begins with weakness," he said. "The poison attacks our immortal cells, breaking down the very thing that keeps us undying. Stage 1, I lose my strength. Stage 2, my healing abilities fail. Stage 3, he paused, something flickering in those silver eyes. Stage 3, my body begins to age, centuries catch up in hours. And then finally I turn to dust." Delilah felt a chill run down her spine. "What stage are you in now?" "The beginning of stage 3, I can feel it like fire in my veins, the centuries pressing down." His hand lifted slightly from the bed and she saw that his fingers trembled. "I have perhaps 6 hours, maybe less." 6 hours. It was 2 in the morning now. Dawn would break around 6:30. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Then we have 6 hours to work with," she said briskly, refusing to let fear show on her face. "I'm going to call down to the lab. We have some of the best toxicologists in the state. If anyone can break down this poison and find a counter-agent, they can. They won't have time, Lucian said quietly. Nightsbane has killed kings before me, greater vampires than I, with centuries more power. There is no shame in falling to it. Maybe not, Delilah said, already pulling out her phone, but there's no glory in giving up either. I didn't become a nurse to watch people die when I could save them. That includes vampire kings. She turned away to make the call, missing the way Lucian's expression shifted, something like wonder crossing his ancient features as he watched this curvy human woman in mint-green scrubs prepare to wage war against his mortality. The next hour was a blur of activity. Delilah coordinated with the lab, sending them every piece of information Lucian could provide about the poison. She adjusted his medication, switched out his blood supply for a richer blend, and monitored his vitals with obsessive attention. The Vampire King watched her work with those unsettling silver eyes, and she found herself acutely aware of his gaze following her movements around the room. You move with purpose, he observed at one point. Every action deliberate, efficient. You have been a healer for long? 5 years as a nurse, Delilah replied, checking the readout on one of his monitors. Before that I was pre-med, but... She hesitated, then shrugged. Life had other plans. Nursing suits me better anyway. More hands-on, more direct patient care. You are good at it. It wasn't a question. I can feel your competence in every touch, gentle but assured. You do not fear me, should I? She glanced at him, one eyebrow raised. You're currently too weak to hurt me, and even if you weren't, I'm trying to save your life. Seems like fearing you would be counterproductive. That ghost of a smile again, slightly warmer this time. Most humans cannot meet my eyes without trembling. Even before the poison, even when I was at full strength. The prey instinct, I suppose. But you look at me as though I am simply another patient. You are simply another patient, Delilah said. A patient with unusual biology and some very impressive titles, but still. You bleed, you can be poisoned, you need care. That makes you my responsibility. Lucian tasted the word. Such a human concept, my kind. We think in terms of power, obligation, ancient debts. But responsibility, that is something different. Something that comes from within, not from external bonds. Sounds lonely, Delilah said quietly, adjusting his pillows so he could sit up slightly. All that power, but no one you're responsible to by choice. His eyes widened fractionally, and she wondered if anyone had ever said something so direct to him before. You are perceptive and bold. Do you speak to all your patients so frankly? The dying ones, usually. They appreciate honesty. She paused, then added, but you're not dying, I told you, not on my watch. Your determination is admirable, Delilah Turner. But determination cannot always overcome reality. Watch me, her phone buzzed. The lab. She answered immediately, listened intently, her expression growing more focused. When she hung up, she was already moving toward the computer terminal in the room. They've identified 3 of the primary compounds in Nightsbane based on your description, she said, fingers flying over the keyboard. One is similar to a plant toxin we see in some rare poisonings. Cardiac glycosides. Another is a protein inhibitor. The third, she frowned. The third is something they've never seen before. Completely alien to human toxicology. Because it is vampire in nature, Lucian said. Created by vampires for vampires. Your human science cannot comprehend it. Maybe not yet, Delilah said. But the first 2 compounds, those we can potentially counter. If we can neutralize even part of the poison, it might buy us time to figure out the rest. Buy us time. Lucian's voice was soft. You say us as though my survival is your own concern. We have known each other mere hours. Delilah turned from the computer to look at him directly. In the harsh light of the hospital room, he was heartbreakingly beautiful and obviously fading. His skin, already pale, had taken on an almost translucent quality, and fine lines were beginning to appear at the corners of his eyes, centuries trying to catch up. Every patient is my concern, she said. That's the job. But you're right, it's more than that. You're a king. How many people depend on you? How many lives hang in the balance if you die tonight? I can't let that happen, I won't. Something shifted in Lucian's expression, a crack in the regal composure. You would save me for political reasons. For the sake of stability in the vampire territories. No, Delilah said quietly. I'd save you because you're a person who deserves to live. The politics are secondary. You matter, Lucian. Your life matters, titles aside. The machines beeped steadily in the silence that followed. Lucian stared at her as though she had said something in a language he had forgotten existed. Something profound and world-shaking. In my 5 centuries of existence, he said finally. His voice rough with emotion he was barely containing. No one has ever said that to me. I matter because I am king. I matter because of my bloodline, my power, the weight of my rule. But I, Lucian, simply as myself, that has never mattered to anyone. Delilah felt her heart clench. She moved closer to the bed, her hand finding his where it lay on the blanket. His skin was cold, far colder than it should have been, and his fingers were trembling more noticeably now. "Then everyone you've known has been an idiot," she said firmly. "You're witty, you're perceptive, you're stubborn as hell, which I respect. You're dealing with your own death with more grace than most people manage, and you haven't once treated me as beneath you, even though I'm human and you're royalty. That's character, that matters." Lucian's fingers closed around hers, gripping with what little strength he had left. "You are remarkable, Delilah Turner, truly remarkable. If I am to die tonight, I am grateful that I met you first, that my last hours were spent with someone who saw me, not just the crown." "Stop talking about dying," Delilah said, but her voice was thick. "We're not done fighting yet." She squeezed his hand once, then released it to return to the computer. The lab had sent over treatment protocols for the 2 compounds they could identify. It would require a delicate balance, administering counteragents without overwhelming his already compromised system. Vampire physiology was still largely unknown to human medicine. One wrong move could kill him faster than the poison. But doing nothing would definitely kill him. Delilah made her decision. She began preparing the medications, her hands steady despite the pressure. Behind her she could hear Lucian's breathing becoming more labored. Stage 3 was progressing. "Tell me about your world," she said as she worked, needing to keep him conscious, keep him engaged. "The vampire territories. What's it like?" A pause, then Lucian's voice, slightly weaker now. "It is beautiful in the way that dangerous things are beautiful. We have cities beneath the earth, carved from stone and crystal, lit by bioluminescent fungi that grew nowhere else. We have courts where vampires who remember the fall of Rome gather to debate politics and settle feuds that began before your country existed. We have libraries that contain the true history of the world, not the sanitized human version. It is magnificent and terrible and lonely beyond measure." "Lonely?" Delilah glanced back at him. "You're surrounded by people. Subjects, courtiers, I assume family. Surrounded, yes, but never seen, never truly known." His eyes had closed, his face drawn with pain. "When you are a king, everyone wants something from you. Favor, power, protection, justice. No one simply wants you. Your company, your thoughts, your presence without purpose. I have not had a genuine conversation in decades until tonight." Delilah's hands paused in their work. "Lucian, it is the truth. You speak to me as though I am a person. You argue with me, challenge me, tell me not to give up. You hold my hand and tell me I matter. Do you know how precious that is?" She turned fully to face him, the medication in her hands. "Then you need to survive so you can have more conversations like this. So you can find people who see you, not just the crown. You need to live, Lucian." His eyes opened, silver and ancient, and fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "And if I wish to have those conversations with you? Only you?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Delilah felt her heart skip a beat, her cheeks warming. This was dangerous territory, getting emotionally involved with a patient, especially a patient who was a vampire king, who lived in a completely different world, who was 5 centuries old and impossibly out of her league. But she couldn't deny the connection she felt, the pull toward this beautiful, lonely creature who was fighting for his life in her care. "Then you definitely need to survive," she said softly. "Because I'd like that too." A smile crossed Lucian's face, genuine and warm despite his pain. "Then I shall endeavor not to disappoint you, fierce Delilah." She moved to his bedside with the first medication. "This is going to hurt. I'm administering a counteragent to one of the toxins. Your body is going to fight it at first, see it as another poison. But if it works, it should neutralize some of the nightsbane." "I trust you," Lucian said simply. Those 3 words, delivered with such complete certainty, nearly undid her. She blinked rapidly, willing away the sudden sting of tears, and focused on her task. Slowly, carefully, she injected the medication into his IV line. The reaction was immediate and violent. Lucian's body arched off the bed, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The monitors erupted in alarms. His hand shot out and gripped the bed rail, and the metal crumpled under his fingers like paper, a reminder that even weakened, he was far stronger than any human. Delilah forced herself to stay calm, watching the monitors, timing the reaction. This was expected, this was normal. His body was fighting both the poison and the cure, waging war on a cellular level. "Stay with me," she said firmly, her hand on his shoulder. "Breathe through it. I know it hurts, but you have to stay with me, Lucian." His eyes found hers, wild with pain but conscious, aware. He was fighting, she could see it, fighting to stay present, to trust her treatment. 30 seconds, a minute. The convulsions began to ease. His body relaxed back onto the bed, and he was gasping, sweat beading on his too pale forehead. But the monitors were stabilizing. The erratic patterns were smoothing out. It was working. Blood pressure stabilizing, Delilah breathed, checking the readouts. Heart rate still elevated but coming down. Lucian, how do you feel? Like I was, set on fire from the inside, he managed, his voice hoarse. But also the pain. The aging pain, it has lessened slightly. Relief flooded through her. We're buying time, now I can administer the second counter agent for the protein inhibitor. That should help your body start healing itself again. You did it, Lucian said, wonder in his voice. You actually, Delilah, you magnificent creature, you did it. We're not done yet, she cautioned, but she was smiling, genuine and bright. Still have to beat the third compound, but we're making progress. She prepared the second medication, her confidence growing. They could do this. She could save him. As she administered the second counter agent, Lucian's hand found hers, gripping tight. This injection was less violent than the first, his body more receptive now that some of the poison had been neutralized. He held her hand through it all, his eyes never leaving her face, and Delilah found herself drawing strength from that connection. When it was done, when his vitals had stabilized again, she checked the time. 4 a.m. They had been at this for 2 hours. Dawn was still over 2 hours away, but Lucian looked markedly better. The lines on his face had faded slightly, and his skin, while still pale, had lost that translucent, dying quality. Rest now, she said gently. Your body needs to process the medications. I'm going to consult with the lab about the third compound. Do not go far, Lucian said, his grip on her hand tightening. Please, I do not wish to be alone. The vulnerability in those words broke something open in Delilah's chest. This powerful ancient being reduced to the simple human need for companionship in the dark hours. She settled into the chair beside his bed, keeping her hand in his. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. I'll make calls from here, you rest. His eyes closed, relief visible on his features. Within moments his breathing had evened out into something like sleep, though Delilah suspected vampires didn't sleep the way humans did. Still, he was resting, and that was good. She pulled out her phone with her free hand, keeping her other hand firmly clasped in Lucian's. The lab answered immediately, and they discussed the third compound in hushed tones. It was frustrating, this unknown element that defied their understanding. The toxicologists were running comparisons against every database they had, but nothing matched. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Delilah said suddenly. We've been trying to find a counter-agent to neutralize the compound. But what if instead, we focused on supporting his natural healing? He said stage 2 was the loss of healing abilities. But with the first 2 compounds neutralized, maybe his healing could restart if we gave it a boost. The toxicologist on the other end paused. That's actually not a bad idea. Vampires heal by regenerating cells at an accelerated rate, right? What if we introduce stem cell factors, growth hormones, things that stimulate cellular repair in humans? It might jumpstart his system. Exactly. We're not fighting the third compound directly. We're going around it, giving his body the tools to fight it off itself. It's risky. We don't know how vampire physiology will react. Everything we've done tonight has been risky. But it's working. All right, I'll prepare a cocktail. Give me 20 minutes. Delilah hung up and found Lucian watching her, his silver eyes half open. You are brilliant, he murmured. Absolutely brilliant. You were awake for that? I told you we do not sleep as humans do. I was resting but aware. He squeezed her hand. Your mind is as remarkable as your heart, Delilah. The way you think, adapt, refuse to accept defeat. You would have made an excellent vampire. I'm pretty happy as a human, actually, she said with a small smile. But thank you. I think you'd make a pretty decent human, too. You've got the stubborn survival instinct down. He laughed, a sound that was part pain, part genuine amusement. I have been many things in my 5 centuries. Many things. But I have never been called decent. Well, you're decent to me. That counts for something. It counts for everything, Lucian said seriously. Delilah, I need to tell you something. In case this final treatment does not work, it's going to work. But if it does not, his eyes held hers, intense and earnest. I need you to know that tonight has meant more to me than you can possibly understand. You have given me something I thought lost forever. Hope, connection. The feeling of being seen as more than a symbol. If I die grateful for that gift. Delilah felt tears prick her eyes. You're not going to die. And when you survive this, you're going to go back to your world and find more connections. Real ones. People who see you. Promise me you'll try. I promise, he said softly. But Delilah, what if I wish for one of those connections to be with you? What if in these few hours I have found something I did not know I was searching for? Her breath caught. Lucian, we barely know each other. You're a king. I'm a nurse, you're a vampire, I'm human. This is impossible? He smiled sadly. Yes, I am aware. But the heart does not care for impossibilities. and mine, dead as it supposedly is, has not beat with such feeling in centuries. Not until I opened my eyes and saw you standing in that doorway, determination in every line of your body, refusing to let me die. I don't know what to say, Delilah admitted, her voice shaking. I feel it too, this connection, but I'm also terrified. Your world is dangerous. You live for centuries. I'm going to age and die in what will feel like a blink to you. How could that possibly work? I do not know, Lucian said honestly, but I know that I want to try. If I survive this night, if you give me that gift, I want to try. Before Delilah could respond, her phone rang. The lab. The medications were ready. She stood, reluctantly releasing Lucian's hand. Time to finish this. Time to make sure you survive so we can figure out all these impossible things together. Together, Lucian echoed, and the word sounded like a vow. The final treatment was brought up by a nervous lab tech who barely looked at Lucian before fleeing. Delilah didn't blame him. Even weakened, Lucian radiated an aura of power that was intimidating as hell. She reviewed the medication, a complex mixture of growth factors, healing agents, and cellular stimulators. It was experimental, unprecedented in their last shot. This is it, she said, preparing the injection. Last chance. Your body needs to accept this and use it to kickstart your healing. Otherwise I face the dawn as dust, Lucian finished. I understand. Do it, Delilah. I trust you completely. That trust, absolute and unwavering, gave her the courage to inject the medication. This time, the reaction was different. Lucian's body didn't convulse. Instead, he went absolutely rigid, every muscle locked, his eyes wide and unseeing. The monitors flatlined for one heart-stopping moment. No, Delilah breathed, her hands moving automatically to check his pulse, to assess. No, come on, Lucian. Fight. Come back to me. But he was completely still, not breathing, no heartbeat. The Vampire King was dying, and all her efforts, all her determination couldn't stop it. Delilah did the only thing she could think of. She leaned down close to his ear and spoke with every ounce of emotion in her heart. You promised me you'd try. You promised me you'd find connections, real ones. You don't get to break that promise, Lucian Wolfhart. I won't let you. I refuse to let you die, do you hear me? I refuse, so you fight. You fight right now and you come back because I am not done with you yet. We have impossible things to figure out together, remember? You don't get to leave me alone to figure them out. Fight. For a long moment, nothing. The monitors remained flat. Lucian remained still, then like a miracle, like magic, his chest rose with a breath. The monitors beeped once. Twice. A heartbeat, slow and steady. His eyes fluttered, then opened, and they were glowing, actually glowing with silver light. Delilah, he breathed, and his voice was stronger. I hear you. I am here. She sobbed with relief, her hand clutching his. You scared the hell out of me. Apologies, a weak smile. But I believe it worked. I can feel my healing returning. The poison, it is still there, but my body is fighting it now. Winning against it. Delilah checked the monitors with shaking hands. He was right. All his vitals were improving, strengthening. His body temperature was rising to normal vampire levels. His heart rate was steady. The regeneration had begun. We did it, she whispered. Lucian, we actually did it. You did it, he corrected. You saved me, Delilah Turner. You, with your fierce determination and your brilliant mind and your incredible heart, you saved a vampire king. She laughed, the sound half hysterical with relief and joy. Just doing my job, no. Lucian's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch gentle despite his returning strength. This was far beyond duty. This was care. True care. You gave me your all tonight. You fought for me when you had no reason to, when I was a stranger from another world. You saw me and you decided I was worth saving. That is a gift beyond measure. Delilah leaned into his touch, her own hand covering his. You are worth saving. Don't forget that. I will not. How could I, when you have shown me such kindness, such compassion? His thumb brushed across her cheek and she realized she was crying, tears of relief and exhaustion, and something deeper, something that felt dangerously like love. Delilah, I meant what I said. I wish to try if you will have me. I wish to know you, to spend time with you, to see where this connection between us might lead. It's complicated, she said, but she didn't pull away. Your world, my world. They're so different. Then we will build a bridge between them, together. His eyes held hers, earnest and hopeful. I am a king. I have resources, power, influence. I can make it possible for us to be together if you wish it. We can navigate the complications, find solutions, but only if you want to try. Delilah thought about it, really thought about it. This was crazy, this was impossible. She barely knew him, had spent one night with him. But what a night it had been. She had seen him at his most vulnerable, had fought beside him against death itself. She had seen his loneliness, his longing for genuine connection. She had seen the person beneath the crown, and that person was someone she wanted to know more. And the way he looked at her, like she was precious, like she mattered more than his kingdom or his power or anything else. When had anyone ever looked at her like that? When had she ever felt this pull towards someone, this certainty that they could be important to each other? Yes, she said finally, and watched his face light up like the sun. Yes, I want to try. I want to see where this goes. But slowly, okay? We take our time, get to know each other properly. No rushing. I have lived 5 centuries, Lucian said, his smile radiant. I can be patient. As long as I know you are willing to try, I can wait for anything. She leaned down and kissed his forehead, a gentle press of lips to cool skin. Then rest now, heal, and when you're strong again we'll figure out the rest. Will you stay with me? Until dawn? I'm on shift until 7. I'll be here the whole time. Then I am the luckiest vampire in existence. Delilah settled back into the chair, her hand still clasped in Lucian's, and watched as his body continued to heal, regeneration working its magic. The lines on his face smoothed away completely. His skin regained its luminous quality, his breathing steadied, strong and sure. By 5 in the morning he was sitting up, looking more alive than dead. By 6 he was arguing with her about being discharged early, insisting he felt fine. Delilah, ever the professional, insisted on keeping him until the day shift arrived and the vampire specialists could examine him properly. You are a tyrant, Lucian declared, but he was smiling. A beautiful, competent, stubborn tyrant who I cannot argue with because you saved my life. Damn right, Delilah said smugly. And as your nurse, I'm ordering you to rest for at least another day. Let your body fully recover. And will you be here for that day? I work tonight too, actually. So yes, if you're still a patient, I'll be here. Then I shall be the most cooperative patient you have ever had. I will rest, I will take my medications, I will do whatever you command, as long as it means more time with you. Delilah shook her head, but she was smiling. You're ridiculous. I am in love, Lucian said simply, and the words hung in the air like a bell chime. Delilah froze. Lucian, we just met, you can't. I know it is fast, I know by human standards it is absurd. But Delilah, I have lived centuries. I have met thousands upon thousands of people. I know what is ordinary and what is extraordinary. And you, what I feel for you, what we have between us, that is extraordinary. I am not asking you to say it back. I am simply telling you the truth of my heart. She stared at him. This impossible vampire king who had come into her life mere hours ago and turned everything upside down. She should be skeptical. She should be cautious. But looking into those silver eyes, seeing the absolute sincerity there, she couldn't find it in herself to doubt him. Ask me again in a month, she said softly. When we know each other better. When we've had time to figure out if this can really work. Ask me then in 1 month, Lucian agreed. I shall ask you then, and every day until that month arrives I shall prove to you that this is real, that we can make it work, that what I feel is not simply gratitude or relief but genuine love. That's a pretty big promise. I am a king. I do not make promises I cannot keep. Dawn came, the first rays of sunlight beginning to creep across the sky beyond the window. Lucian flinched slightly, instinctive even though the room's UV-blocking shades were firmly in place. Delilah moved to adjust them, ensuring no stray beam could reach him. Thank you, he said quietly. For that, for everything. For refusing to let me die. You're welcome. Though honestly I think you refused too. You fought hard. I had a reason to fight. You gave me that reason. The day shift began to arrive, and with them, a small contingent of vampire officials who had apparently been waiting in a secured room downstairs. They swept in with all the pomp and ceremony Delilah had been expecting, immediately bowing to Lucian and launching into rapid reports about investigations into the poisoning, security measures, political implications. Lucian bore it with regal patience, but his hand stayed clasped around Delilah's, refusing to let her slip away even as he dealt with the business of being a king. The other vampires noticed, their eyes flickering to their joined hands with barely concealed curiosity. Delilah felt distinctly out of place among these pale, beautiful, powerful beings. But then Lucian looked at her and smiled, and she felt like the most important person in the room. Gentlemen, Lucian said, cutting off the chatter with a raised hand. I appreciate your concern and your diligence. But I am recovering and I have my excellent nurse to thank for that. We will discuss security and investigations later. For now I require rest as she has ordered, so you will excuse us. It was a clear dismissal. The vampires bowed and retreated, though not without several backward glances at Delilah. She had a feeling she was going to be the subject of much gossip in vampire circles. When they were alone again, she raised an eyebrow at Lucian. You just kicked out your entire court for me. Yes, and I would do it again. He tugged her closer. They have had centuries of my time. You have had only 1 night. That does not seem equitable. You're going to cause a scandal, she warned, but she was charmed despite herself. Let them talk. I am king. I can do as I please, and it pleases me to spend time with you. Her shift was ending. She needed to go home, sleep, prepare for the next night. But she found herself reluctant to leave, to break this spell they had woven together in the dark hours. "I'll be back tonight," she promised, "and we'll talk more then. Figure out how we're going to make this work." "I will count the hours," Lucian said seriously. "Every single one." She squeezed his hand once more, then forced herself to stand, to step back, rest, heal. "Don't argue with the day shift nurses. I will be a model patient, Lur." He grinned, unrepentant. "Perhaps, but only for the other nurses, for you. I will be perfect." Delilah left the room with a smile on her face and warmth in her chest. She processed out with the day shift supervisor, giving a detailed report about Lucian's treatment and recovery. The supervisor looked impressed and slightly awed. "You saved the Vampire King," she said. "That's going to make headlines, you know." "The human nurse who defied the odds and cured Nightsbane poisoning. I didn't do it for headlines," Delilah said. "I did it because it was my job, because he deserved to live. Still, you should be proud. This is incredible work, Delilah." She was proud, but more than that, she was hopeful. Hopeful for what might come next, for where this impossible connection with Lucian might lead. At home she collapsed into bed but couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the night, every moment with Lucian, his silver eyes, his vulnerability, his declarations of love. It was insane, it was wonderful, it was terrifying. She pulled out her phone and did something she never did, looked up her patient online. Search results for Lucian Wolfhart were extensive. Articles about the vampire revelation, political pieces about the Northern Territories, speculation about his personal life. There were photos too, formal portraits showing him in all his regal glory, commanding and powerful and impossibly beautiful, and now that person wanted to be with her. Delilah Turner, a plus-size nurse from Seattle who wore scrubs with cartoon characters on them and ate leftover pizza for breakfast. It was absurd, but maybe that was okay. Maybe absurd could be wonderful. She set an alarm for late afternoon and finally slept, dreams full of silver eyes and gentle touches. When she returned to the hospital that evening, ready for her next shift, she found a surprise waiting at the nurse's station. A massive bouquet of black roses, so dark they were almost purple, arranged in an expensive crystal vase. The card read simply, "For the woman who refused to let me die. Thank you for everything. L.W." Her colleagues were buzzing with curiosity and excitement. "Are you dating the Vampire King?" one of them asked bluntly. "Because these flowers are insane. Do you know how rare black roses are?" "I'm not dating him," Delilah said. But even as she said it, she wondered if that was true. What were they doing exactly? "I'm his nurse, he's just grateful." "That's not gratitude, that's courtship," another nurse said knowingly. "Vampires don't give black roses for simple thank yous. Those are romantic flowers in their culture. Very romantic." Delilah felt her cheeks heat. She took the flowers and the card and made her way to the vampire wing, her heart beating faster with every step. When she reached Lucian's room, she found him awake and looking significantly better. His skin glowed with health, his silver hair shone, and his eyes were bright and alert. He was sitting up in bed, looking every inch the king, except for the hospital gown that rather ruined the effect. "Delilah," he said, and his whole face lit up at the sight of her. "I was hoping you would come early." "I'm right on time for my shift," she said, setting the flowers down on the bedside table. "And thank you for these. They're beautiful. Though my colleagues seem to think you're courting me, they are correct. I am absolutely courting you." He said it without a hint of shame or hesitation. "Unless you wish me to stop." "I know I don't wish you to stop, but we agreed to go slowly. Sending flowers is slow. If I were moving quickly, I would be showering you with jewels, composing poetry in your honor, and making grand public declarations of my affection." He paused thoughtfully. "I still might do the poetry, you inspire it." Delilah laughed despite herself. "You're ridiculous. How are you feeling? Any residual symptoms?" "None. I am completely healed thanks to you. The vampire specialists examined me this morning and declared it a miracle. Several of them wished to study what you did, to replicate it for future cases. Of course, medical knowledge should be shared." She began her routine checks, even though he clearly didn't need them anymore. "Though honestly, I'm still shocked it worked. Nightsbane has killed vampires for centuries, and we beat it with human medicine and a lot of luck." "And your brilliance," Lucian added. "Do not diminish your achievement, Delilah. You saw solutions where others saw only defeat. That is a rare gift." She finished her examination, noting that all his vitals were perfect, better than perfect actually. He was in peak health, radiating power and strength. "The specialists are right, you're healed. You don't need to stay in the hospital anymore." Something flickered across Lucian's face. Disappointment. "Ah, so I must leave then. Return to my world, my duties. I imagine your people need you. You are a king." "Yes, they do need me." He caught her hand, holding it gently. "But I need you more. Or at least, I wish to be near you more. Delilah, come with me. Come to my estate, see my world. Not permanently, he added quickly, seeing her expression. Just for a visit. A few days, let me show you who I am in my own environment. Let us spend time together away from hospitals and sickness. It was tempting, so tempting but also terrifying. Lucian, I have a job, responsibilities, I can't just leave. A few days, he repeated. I am certain your hospital would grant you time off, given that you just saved the life of a very important political figure who is now personally requesting your presence. Call it diplomatic relations, medical consultation, whatever you need to call it to make it work. He had a point, and the idea of seeing his world, understanding more about him, spending uninterrupted time together, it called to something deep inside her. Let me talk to my supervisor, she said finally. I can't promise anything. That is all I ask. A chance. The conversation with her supervisor went easier than expected. In fact, her boss seemed thrilled at the idea of Delilah visiting the Vampire King's estate, seeing it as positive relations between their hospital and the vampire community. She was granted a week's leave, starting immediately, with the suggestion that she observe and learn about vampire medicine while she was there. Though between you and me, her supervisor said with a knowing smile, I think the king wants you there for reasons beyond medical consultation. Those flowers were not subtle. Delilah didn't argue. She went home, packed a bag with trembling hands, and tried to process what she was about to do. She was going to stay with the vampire king, in his home. This was her life now, apparently. A car arrived for her that evening, sleek and black and obviously expensive. The driver was vampire, pale and courteous, and he treated her with a level of respect that suggested Lucian had made his interest in her very clear to his staff. The drive took them outside the city, into the hills where the wealthy and powerful kept estates hidden from prying eyes. Lucian's home was not what she expected. She had imagined some kind of dark Gothic castle, all stone and shadows. Instead, it was a modern mansion built into the hillside, all glass and clean lines designed to blend with the natural landscape. It was beautiful in an understated way, sophisticated and elegant. Lucian himself met her at the door, and the sight of him took her breath away. He was dressed in black slacks and a dark shirt, simple but impeccably tailored, and his silver hair was pulled back loosely. Out of the hospital, fully healed and in his own environment, he was devastating. Power radiated from him, ancient and immense, but his eyes when they met hers were warm and welcoming. Delilah, he said, taking her bag from her hands and passing it to a waiting staff member. Welcome to my home. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. This place is gorgeous. I am glad you approve. Come, let me show you around. He gave her a tour, pointing out various rooms, the library filled with ancient books, the sitting rooms with their comfortable furniture and stunning views, the kitchen that was clearly more for show than use, since vampires didn't eat food. He showed her to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment, decorated in soft neutrals with a massive bed and an ensuite bathroom that looked like a spa. I hope you will be comfortable here, Lucian said. If you need anything at all, simply ask. My staff will provide it. This is incredible, Delilah said honestly. I feel like I'm in a luxury hotel. You are a guest of honor. You should be treated as such. He hesitated, then added, I placed you in this wing of the house because it is far from my rooms. I want you to feel safe here, Delilah. To know that I respect your boundaries and your comfort. We agreed to go slowly, and I intend to honor that. The thoughtfulness of it touched her deeply. Thank you. That means a lot. You mean a lot. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture tender. I am very glad you are here. I have thought of little else but you since you left this morning. I thought about you too, she admitted. I tried to sleep, but I kept replaying last night. Everything we talked about, everything that happened. It was a significant night. Life-changing, one might say. Definitely life-changing. They stood there, inches apart, and the air between them felt charged with possibility. Delilah could hear her own heartbeat, loud in the quiet of the room. Lucian's eyes had darkened to pewter, and she wondered what he was thinking, what he wanted. I should let you rest, he said finally, though he didn't move away. You have had a long night and day. Dinner is at 8 if you wish to join me, though I understand if you prefer to eat alone to have space. I'll join you, Delilah said. I came here to spend time with you, didn't I? His smile was brilliant. Yes. Yes, you did. Then I shall see you at 8. Dress casually, this is not a formal affair. Just two people sharing a meal and conversation. He left, and Delilah sank down onto the bed, her mind whirling. This was real. She was really here, in a vampire king's home, about to have dinner with him. Her life had become something out of a fantasy novel. She showered in the luxurious bathroom, using products that smelled like vanilla and honey. She dressed in jeans and a soft sweater, her most flattering casual outfit, and spent probably too long on her hair and makeup. When 8 o'clock came, she made her way downstairs, following the sounds of music to a dining room that was intimate despite its size, lit by candles and set for two. Lucian was already there, pouring wine. He looked up at her entrance and froze, his expression arrested. "You are breathtaking," he said softly. "Absolutely breathtaking." Delilah felt her cheeks warm. "You're pretty breathtaking yourself." He pulled out her chair, seating her with old-world courtesy, then settled across from her. The table was laden with food, human food, dishes that looked and smelled incredible. Delilah realized he must have had his kitchen staff prepare all this specifically for her. "You didn't have to go to so much trouble," she said. "It is no trouble. I wish to provide for you, to show you hospitality. Besides, I am told the chef is excellent and I wanted you to experience his skill. You don't eat any of this?" "No, we can consume food, but it provides no nourishment and tastes bland to us. Blood is all we need." He poured her wine, then filled his own glass with something darker, thicker. Blood, she realized. He caught her looking and raised an eyebrow. "Does it bother you? I can abstain." "No," Delilah said honestly. "It's part of who you are. I'm a nurse. Blood doesn't bother me. Though I admit, it's strange to think of it as food. To us it is life itself, the essence of living creatures distilled. We can survive on animal blood, and many vampires do, ethically sourced. But blood from sapient beings given willingly, that is the finest sustenance." He sipped from his glass. "This is human blood from volunteers who are well compensated and carefully monitored. No one is harmed in the acquisition of vampire sustenance, not in my territories. I made that law when I took the throne 2 centuries ago." "That's progressive," Delilah said, beginning to eat. The food was, as promised, incredible. "I have lived a long time. I have seen the damage caused by predatory behavior, by viewing humans as mere cattle. It is unsustainable and morally repugnant. We can coexist peacefully if both species respect each other." The revelation was about more than simply revealing our existence. It was about building a future where vampires and humans live alongside each other as equals. They talked as they ate, deep conversations about politics and ethics, about the challenges of integrating two species with such different needs and cultures. Lucian was passionate about his vision for the future, and Delilah found herself impressed by his progressive ideals and his genuine care for both his vampire subjects and the humans in his territories. "You're not what I expected," she admitted as they finished dinner. "When I first saw you, I thought you'd be, I don't know, more imperious, more distant. But you're thoughtful and compassionate and genuinely interested in doing the right thing." "I have had centuries to learn humility," Lucian said, "and centuries to make mistakes and see their consequences. Power without wisdom is tyranny, and I have never wished to be a tyrant. I want to be a good king, a just ruler, someone my people can trust and respect, not simply fear. I think you succeed at that. Coming from you, that means everything." After dinner, he showed her more of the estate, walking with her through gardens lit by soft lights, past fountains and carefully manicured landscapes. They talked about everything and nothing, learning each other. Delilah told him about her childhood, her family, her decision to become a nurse. Lucian shared stories from his long life, painting pictures of historical events he had witnessed, people he had known, places he had seen. "Do you ever regret it?" Delilah asked at one point. "The immortality, watching everyone around you age and die?" Lucian was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, often. It is the greatest curse of vampire existence, the loneliness of outliving everyone you love. I have lost friends, lovers, companions. I have watched human civilizations rise and fall. It creates a distance, an inability to truly connect because you know, always, that it is temporary, that they will be gone and you will remain. Is that why you've been lonely? Why you haven't had genuine connections? Partly, but also because of the crown. People see the power, not the person. They want to use me or please me or manipulate me. Genuine affection is rare. Most vampires are even worse than humans in that regard. We are political creatures by nature, always calculating advantage. That sounds exhausting. It is. Which is why you are so refreshing. You did not know who I was when you first cared for me. You saw a dying patient and you fought for him. There was no calculation, no agenda. Just pure, genuine compassion that is precious beyond measure. They had stopped walking, finding themselves in a secluded corner of the garden surrounded by night-blooming flowers. The moon was full overhead, casting silver light across everything. Lucian turned to face her fully, his eyes reflecting that moonlight. "Delilah, I know we agreed to go slowly. I know this is all very fast and strange. But I cannot help how I feel. Being near you, talking with you, learning about you, it only deepens my certainty. You are remarkable, you are special, and I am falling more in love with you with every passing moment." Delilah's breath caught. "Lucian, I am not asking you to say it back. I am simply being honest. I want you to know where I stand, what is in my heart, And if you need time, if you need space, I will give it, but I will not hide my feelings. I have spent too many centuries hiding, pretending. With you, I want only truth." She looked at him, this beautiful, powerful, ancient being, who was offering her his heart with such vulnerability. She thought about the night they met, the connection that had sparked between them. She thought about his loneliness, his longing for genuine affection. She thought about how right it felt to be near him, to talk with him, to exist in his presence. "I'm scared," she admitted. "This is so far outside my experience. I'm a normal human woman with a normal life. You're a vampire king with centuries of history and responsibilities I can't even imagine. How do we bridge that gap? How do we make this work?" "Together," Lucian said, echoing his words from the hospital. "We figure it out together. Yes, there are challenges, our different lifespans, our different worlds. But Delilah, there are solutions. Vampires can turn humans, grant them immortality. I could offer you that, if you wished it. Or we could simply live in the present, cherishing whatever time we have together. I would take 50 years with you over 5 centuries with anyone else. You'd turn me? Make me a vampire? Only if you wanted it. It is not something I would ever force. But it is an option, a way for us to have true forever. Though I understand if the idea frightens you, it is not a decision to make lightly." It was overwhelming. They had known each other for barely 2 days, and here he was, talking about forever, about turning her into a vampire. It should have sent her running. It should have been too much, too fast. But instead, she found herself considering it. Imagining a life with Lucian, centuries to explore and learn and love. Imagining herself as a vampire, powerful and immortal. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. "I don't know what I want," she said honestly. "This is all so new. I need time to think, to process. But Lucian, I'm not running away. I'm here. I want to see where this goes. I just need to take it one step at a time." "Then we take it one step at a time," he agreed. "No pressure, no expectations, just us learning each other, seeing if this connection is as real as it feels." "It feels pretty real," Delilah admitted. "For me as well." He reached out and took her hand, lacing their fingers together. They stood like that in the moonlit garden, connected, and Delilah felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was strange and impossible and probably insane, but it also felt like exactly where she was supposed to be. The next few days passed in a blur of discovery. Delilah explored the estate, spent hours in Lucian's incredible library, and learned about vampire culture and history from him directly. He was a patient teacher, answering all her questions without judgment, explaining the intricacies of his world. She met members of his court who came for meetings and official business. They were universally fascinated by her, this human woman their king had brought into his home. Some were welcoming, genuinely interested in building bridges with humanity. Others were more suspicious, questioning her presence and her intentions. Lucian dealt with the latter firmly, making it clear that Delilah was under his personal protection, and any disrespect toward her would be taken as disrespect toward him. "You didn't have to do that," Delilah said, after one particularly tense meeting where a vampire noble had made a snide comment about her appearance. "I can handle some rude vampires." "You should not have to," Lucian said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "You are my guest. More than that, you are important to me. Anyone who cannot treat you with the respect you deserve has no place in my court. I think you just made an enemy. I have many enemies. One more makes little difference. But what makes a difference is ensuring you feel safe and valued here. That is my priority." His protectiveness was both touching and slightly overwhelming. Delilah wasn't used to someone defending her so fiercely, putting her comfort above political considerations. It made her feel cherished, special, like she truly mattered to him. They spent evenings together, talking for hours, sharing meals where he would watch her eat with a small smile while sipping his own sustenance. He showed her vampire art, music, poetry, all the culture his kind had developed over millennia. He played piano for her, compositions he had written himself, beautiful and haunting melodies that spoke of loneliness and longing. "That was incredible," Delilah said when he finished one particularly moving piece. "You're incredibly talented." "I have had centuries to practice," Lucian said, but he looked pleased. "Music is one of the few joys that never fades with time. It evolves, changes, but the core beauty of it remains constant." "Play something happy," Delilah requested. "Something that makes you think of joy." Lucian's fingers moved over the keys, and this time the melody was lighter, more playful. It built and swirled, full of energy and life. When he finished, he looked at her with those intense silver eyes. "That is what I think of when I think of you," he said quietly. "Joy, light, the feeling of possibility after centuries of stagnation. You have brought music back into my life, Delilah, in the most literal sense." She moved closer, standing beside the piano bench. You're going to make me cry with words like that. I speak only truth. He stood, facing her, and they were close, so close she could feel the coolness radiating from his body. Vampires didn't generate heat the way humans did, but somehow that coolness was pleasant, refreshing. Delilah, may I kiss you? Her heart stuttered. They hadn't kissed yet, despite the intensity of their connection. It felt like a significant line to cross, moving from emotional intimacy to physical. But she wanted it. She wanted to know what his lips felt like against hers, wanted to close that last distance between them. Yes, she breathed. Lucian cupped her face with both hands, his touch gentle, reverent. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, to pull away. But she didn't. She met him halfway, and when their lips touched, it felt like coming home. The kiss was soft at first, exploratory, learning each other's rhythms. Then it deepened, growing more passionate. Lucian's arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and Delilah melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete focus and intensity, like she was the only thing that existed in his world. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Lucian rested his forehead against hers. Remarkable, he murmured. Absolutely remarkable. You taste like sunshine. You taste like moonlight, Delilah replied. Then laughed. How silly that sounded. I don't even know what that means. It means we are made for each other. Sun and moon, light and shadow, mortal and immortal. Opposites that complete each other. That's very poetic. I told you, you inspire poetry in me. They kissed again and again until Delilah was dizzy with it, her whole body singing with awareness. Finally, reluctantly, she pulled back. We should stop, she said, though she didn't want to. We agreed to take things slowly. We did. And I will not push you beyond what you are comfortable with. But Delilah, know that I want you. Not just physically, though I absolutely do. But I want all of you. Your time, your attention, your heart. I want to build a life with you. Whatever form that takes. I want that too, she admitted. I'm still scared, still uncertain about some things. But I want to try. I want to see if we can make this work. Then we will make it work, whatever it takes. The week passed too quickly. Delilah knew she needed to return to her life, her job, her normal world. But leaving felt impossible. She had grown so comfortable here in Lucian's home in his presence. The thought of going back to her small apartment, to not seeing him every day, it created an ache in her chest. Come with me, she said on their last evening together. To the city. Live part-time in the human world. You have a whole existence here, but maybe you could have one there too. See what normal life is like. Lucian considered it, his expression thoughtful. I have responsibilities, my court, my territories. I cannot simply abandon them. Not abandon. Just share your time. You have advisors, people who can handle things when you're not immediately available. And with modern technology, you can stay connected, make decisions remotely. Please, Lucian. I want this to work, but I can't move into your world completely. I have my own life, my own career. We need to find a middle ground. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You are right. A relationship requires compromise from both parties. I cannot expect you to give up everything while I give up nothing. I will arrange it. I will spend time in the city with you. We will build our life in both worlds. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. That means everything to me. You mean everything to me. I will move the earth itself if it means keeping you in my life. They kissed under the stars that night, a promise sealed between them. When Delilah left the next morning, it was with plans firmly in place. Lucian would come to Seattle within the week. He would get an apartment near her, close enough that they could see each other regularly, but not so close that she felt smothered. They would date properly like normal people, figuring out their relationship in the real world. It was terrifying and wonderful, and Delilah had never been so happy. The month that followed was like something out of a dream. Lucian came to Seattle as promised, renting a penthouse apartment in one of the nicest buildings downtown. He integrated himself into her world with surprising ease, learning the rhythms of human life, the small joys of coffee shops and movie theaters and late-night diners. He showed up at the hospital sometimes when her shift ended, waiting to take her home or out to dinner. Her colleagues were fascinated and slightly envious. This plus-size nurse dating an impossibly handsome vampire king. Delilah introduced him to her friends, her family. Her mother was skeptical at first, concerned about the age gap and the species difference, but Lucian won her over with his old-fashioned courtesy and obvious devotion to Delilah. Her father, more practical, asked pointed questions about Lucian's intentions and his ability to provide for and protect his daughter. Lucian answered every question with patience and honesty, making it clear that he viewed Delilah as his equal and his partner, not a possession. They went on dates, normal human dates. Movies where Lucian was fascinated by the special effects and storytelling. restaurants where Delilah ate and Lucian watched her with adoring eyes. Walks through the city at night, Lucian's favorite time, when the world was quieter and he could be more himself. Museums where he would point out inaccuracies in historical exhibits, having lived through the actual events. They grew closer, learning each other's quirks and preferences. Delilah discovered that Lucian was surprisingly funny, with a dry wit that caught her off guard, that he loved literature, especially poetry and philosophy, that he was terrible at modern technology and needed her help with his smartphone, that he was fiercely loyal and protective, but also capable of great gentleness. Lucian learned that Delilah was stubborn and passionate, that she cared deeply about her patients and her work, that she loved cheesy romance novels and action movies, that she had insecurities about her body that he found baffling, because to him, she was perfect exactly as she was, that she was braver than she gave herself credit for, facing down a vampire king without fear and saving his life through sheer determination. They fell deeper in love with every passing day. At the end of the month, on the anniversary of the night they met, Lucian took Delilah back to his estate. They had dinner in the same dining room, candles flickering, the atmosphere intimate and charged. "A month ago, I asked you to give me time," Delilah said as they finished eating, "to prove that what you felt was real, to show me that we could make this work." "I remember," Lucian said, his eyes never leaving her face. "You've done that. You've been everything I could have asked for and more. You've compromised, adapted, put me first in so many ways. You've been patient with my fears and supportive of my dreams. You've made me feel cherished and valued and loved, because you are all those things, because loving you has been the greatest privilege of my long existence." Delilah stood, moving around the table to stand before him. Lucian rose to meet her, his expression questioning, hopeful. "You said you'd ask me again," she said softly. "In a month. You said you'd ask me if I loved you." "I did say that." His voice was rough with emotion. "And I meant it, so I am asking now. Delilah Turner, do you love me?" She cupped his face, looking into those beautiful silver eyes that had haunted her dreams since that first night. "Yes, I love you, Lucian Wolfhart. I love you completely and impossibly, and I don't care that it's only been a month. I love you." The smile that crossed his face was radiant, joyful beyond measure. "Delilah, my Delilah, I love you so much, so very much." They kissed, deep and passionate, pouring all their feelings into it. When they pulled apart, Lucian was still smiling, his hands gentle on her waist. "I have something for you," he said. "A gift, a question really." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Delilah's heart started racing. It was too soon, wasn't it? They had only known each other a month. But then again, when had anything about their relationship followed normal timelines? Lucian opened the box, revealing not a ring but a pendant. It was beautiful, an intricate silver design with a deep red stone at its center. But more than that, it radiated power. She could feel it, ancient and strong. "This is a vampire bonding pendant," Lucian explained. "It is a tradition among my kind, given when one wishes to formally court another with the intention of becoming life partners. If you accept this, you accept my suit. You agree to consider a future with me, to work toward building a life together. It is not marriage, not yet, but it is a promise, a commitment." "What does it do?" Delilah asked, staring at the pendant. "It links us. I will be able to sense your emotions, your location, your well-being. Not reading your mind," he clarified quickly, "but aware of you in a deep way. And you will be able to sense me as well. We will be connected even when apart. It also marks you as mine in vampire society. No vampire would dare harm you, knowing you are under my personal protection. It is safety, connection, and a promise of forever." Delilah took a shaky breath. This was big, this was huge, but looking at Lucian, seeing the hope and love in his eyes, she knew her answer. "Yes," she said. "I accept. I want this with you. I want forever." Lucian's hands shook slightly as he removed the pendant from the box and fastened it around her neck. The moment the clasp closed, Delilah felt something shift, like a door opening in her mind. Suddenly she could feel Lucian, his presence warm and comforting at the edge of her consciousness, his love for her, overwhelming and absolute, his joy at her acceptance. "I can feel you," she whispered, awed. "And I you, your courage, your kindness, your love. It is beautiful. Delilah, you are beautiful." They kissed again, and this time it was different, deeper, the bond between them humming with energy, connecting them on a level beyond the physical. Delilah felt complete in a way she never had before, like a piece of herself she didn't know was missing had finally clicked into place. "There is one more thing we need to discuss," Lucian said eventually, his arms still wrapped around her. "The question of immortality. I do not need an answer tonight, but it is something we must address. If we are to have forever, you would need to be turned." Delilah had thought about this a lot over the past month. The idea of becoming a vampire, of leaving behind her humanity. It was scary, but it was also exciting. The chance to live for centuries, to experience so much, to never have to leave Lucian. I want it, she said, not right away. I want some time to prepare, to say proper goodbyes to my human life. But yes, I want to be turned. I want forever with you. Lucian closed his eyes, his relief palpable through the bond. You have no idea how much that means to me. The thought of losing you to age, of watching you fade while I remained, it haunted me. But this is perfect. We will have forever. Together, Delilah agreed. They spent that night talking, planning their future. They decided to wait a year before the turning, giving Delilah time to prepare emotionally and logistically. She would continue working as a nurse, building her skills and knowledge that would transfer into vampire medicine. They would split their time between his estate and the city, building a life that spanned both worlds. And eventually, when she was turned, she would rule beside him, his queen, his partner, his equal. It was overwhelming and perfect, and everything Delilah had never known she wanted. The months that followed were blissful. Delilah and Lucian grew even closer, the bond between them deepening with each passing day. She moved into his penthouse, bringing her life into his space, making it theirs. They navigated challenges together, the cultural differences between humans and vampires, the political complications of a king taking a human partner. But they faced everything as a team, supporting each other, compromising when needed, standing firm when necessary. Delilah became more involved in vampire society, attending court functions at Lucian's side, learning the intricate politics of his world. She was nervous at first, this plus-size human nurse among ancient vampire nobles, but Lucian's confidence in her gave her strength, and gradually she won people over. Her medical knowledge proved valuable in vampire communities, her insights bridging the gap between human and vampire medicine. She became known as the King's Healer, respected for saving Lucian's life and for her continued work in improving vampire healthcare. Lucian, for his part, embraced human life more fully. He learned to appreciate the small mortal joys that his kind often overlooked. Coffee, even though he couldn't taste it. Sunrises, viewed through special UV-protected glass. The changing seasons and the way humans mark time with holidays and celebrations. He attended hospital fundraisers with Delilah, donated enormous sums to medical research, and became an advocate for vampire-human cooperation in healthcare. They were happy, truly, deeply happy. When the year mark approached, Delilah found herself both excited and nervous. The turning would happen on the anniversary of the night they met, exactly 1 year after Lucian had been poisoned and brought to her hospital. It felt right, symmetrical, like completing a circle. She said her goodbyes to her human life with a mixture of sadness and anticipation. She took leave from her job, though her supervisor assured her she would always have a place at the hospital if she wanted it after the turning. She spent time with her family, explaining what was going to happen, ensuring they understood this was her choice and that she was happy. Her mother cried, but supported her. Her father shook Lucian's hand and told him to take care of his daughter, in this life and the next. The turning itself was a ritual, ancient and formal. It took place in Lucian's estate in a room prepared specifically for this purpose. Vampire nobles attended as witnesses, as was tradition. Delilah wore white, a symbol of the life she was leaving behind. Lucian wore black, a symbol of the immortal world she was entering. "Are you certain?" Lucian asked one final time, his hands holding hers. "Once this is done, there is no going back. You will be vampire forever. Your human life will end." "I'm certain," Delilah said firmly. "I want this. I want forever with you." He kissed her, soft and sweet, then guided her to recline on the prepared surface. The actual turning was both more and less than she expected. Lucian's bite was sharp but not painful, his venom already working to numb the area. She felt her blood being drawn, felt herself weakening. Then Lucian cut his own wrist and placed it to her lips. "Drink," he commanded gently. "Drink and be reborn." She drank, and the taste of his blood was nothing like she expected. It was powerful, intoxicating, full of centuries of magic and strength. She felt it burning through her veins, rewriting her very cells. The transformation was painful, her body fighting and accepting the change simultaneously. She lost consciousness at some point, overwhelmed by the sensation. When she woke, everything was different. The world was sharper, clearer. She could hear heartbeats from rooms away, smell individual scents with perfect clarity. Her body felt strong, powerful, like she could lift cars or run for miles without tiring. And the bond with Lucian, already strong, was now overwhelming in its intensity. She could feel him completely, his love, his relief, his joy at her survival. "Delilah," Lucian said, and his voice was beautiful, full of harmonics she had never noticed before. "How do you feel?" She sat up, looking at her hands. They were paler now, taking on the alabaster quality of vampire skin. She touched her hair and found it unchanged in color, still her natural shade, but fuller, healthier. She looked at Lucian and saw him with new eyes, seeing the power and age in him clearly, no longer hidden. "I feel amazing," she said, and her voice was slightly different, richer somehow. "Is this what it's always like for you? The world is so vivid, you will adjust. Your senses are heightened now. Everything is more intense." He helped her stand, steadying her. "You did beautifully. The turning was clean, perfect. You are vampire now, Delilah, immortal." She looked in a mirror and barely recognized herself. She was still her, same features, same face. But there was something different, an otherworldly quality, a beauty that came from the vampire nature now within her. She was plus size still, her body shape unchanged, but somehow she looked regal now, powerful, like a queen. "I'm beautiful," she whispered, awed. "You always were," Lucian said, wrapping his arms around her from behind, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "But now you see yourself as I have always seen you. Perfect, radiant, powerful." The vampire nobles who had witnessed the turning came forward to offer their congratulations, to welcome her formally into vampire society. Delilah accepted their words with grace, falling into the role of vampire nobility with surprising ease. Lucian stood beside her, his pride in her obvious. That night they were formally bonded in vampire marriage, an even older ritual that tied their lives together completely. They were no longer just partners, but truly one being in two bodies, bonded for eternity. It was overwhelming and beautiful, and everything Delilah had dreamed of. The days that followed were an adjustment period. Delilah had to learn to control her new strength, her heightened senses. She had to adjust to drinking blood, though Lucian was patient in teaching her how to feed ethically and safely. She had to learn vampire politics and protocols, stepping into her role as Lucian's queen. But through it all she was happy. She had made the right choice. She could feel it in every fiber of her being, in the bond that connected her to Lucian, in the endless possibilities that stretched before them. They returned to the hospital together, months after her turning. Delilah wanted to see her colleagues, to show them she was still herself, just enhanced. The reunion was emotional, her former co-workers marveling at her transformation. She was invited to consult on vampire medical cases, to use her unique perspective as someone who had been both human and vampire to bridge medical gaps. She and Lucian also returned to the isolation suite where they had first met, standing together in the room that had changed both their lives. "A year ago I was dying here," Lucian said quietly, certain it was the end. "And then you walked through that door and refused to let me go. You saved my life, Delilah, in every way a person can be saved." "You saved mine too," Delilah said, leaning into him. "You showed me what love could be. You gave me purpose and partnership and a future I never imagined. We saved each other, we did." He kissed the top of her head. "And now we have forever to continue saving each other. Every single day." They left the hospital hand in hand, stepping out into the night. The city glittered before them, full of life and possibility. They had overcome every obstacle, navigated every challenge. They had built a bridge between worlds, between species, between two lonely hearts that had found each other in the darkness. Delilah Turner, the plus-size nurse who had refused to let the vampire king die on her watch, walked into the night with her immortal husband. Behind them, the hospital stood as a testament to where their story began. Ahead of them, an eternity stretched out, full of love and adventure and endless possibility. They had forever, together. And that was more than enough.